everybody, I'm Georgeryals at Archery Learning Center. I'm here at Last Chance Archery because it's time for another thing a week. Today I'm going to go through torque tuning. I'm going to go through the different ways that it can be done and explain to you why it needs to be done and how it works. But before then, I want to let you know that you can take archery lessons direct from me at improvemyarchery.com. All you got to do is go there. You can choose an online lesson where we get together on a Zoom call and you put your phone on a tripod and I watch you shoot, or we talk about your last tournament or whatever, and I can help you that way. Or you can schedule an in-person lesson and I'll be standing in my range waiting on you and we can torque tune your bow together. So get ready for torque tuning. In order to start torque tuning, you're going to need to set up a target. I normally start off with just a plain white piece of paper. And you can use a straight edge or a marker to make a straight line, but I like to use duct tape. And the reason that I like to use duct tape for creating a straight line for tuning techniques is because duct tape, I can set, come in here a little closer, Jonathan, so they can see this. I can set the thickness of the target that I want to aim at. So if I'm doing this at a really long distance, I'll use the whole width of the tape. But if I'm going to do something at 20, I'll just peel off a section that's, about 10 ring wide or a little bigger than the X ring. And then as I tear the tape, the length and width I can control. So I can just do that. And then I'll tear that off. And then just line it up on my page and make that kind of square and straight and just put that on there and presto changeo, I have a line that I can use for torque tuning. And we'll set this up vertically in order to torque tune. So we'll put this on the target before we begin here in a minute. But first, I'm going to explain to you why torque tune and what it does for you. So I'm going to describe what it is that torque tuning does. So this is a tuning technique that isn't about what makes your arrow fly straighter or more precisely. What this does is this is an old trick that you can use, that if your torque in the riser, there's always some degree of torque in the riser, but when a guy has a very consistent grip placement that he's very careful about, it'll always be the same. But we can't always be perfect. Sometimes it's pouring rain. Sometimes you're shooting uphill or downhill and your grip may have a little different pressure or something. And what this will do is it'll protect your left and rights. So first I'll demonstrate kind of how easy it is to have a little bit of grip torque, and then I'll explain how this torque tuning thing actually works. So if I pull back, let's pretend that I've got my hand in the bow, right? And if I just, you see how those two lines are lined up straight with each other? So if I just relax my grip, you see how that misaligns? Or if I get in there a little heavy with my thumb, I can misalign that in the other direction. So it's really hard to keep that exactly dead center. So just different hand pressure there can change your left and rights and scatter them across the target depending on how far away that you are. So what torque tuning is going to do, we're going to set up our sight, or in some rare instances we can set up the arrow rest as well, to negate that torque. And here's how it works. When I put torque on the bow, the arrow rest, let's say the fletchings is the arrow rest, it deflects this way. So the arrow will fly to the left if I deflect the arrow rest this way, right? If I deflect the arrow rest this way, the arrow will fly to the right. So now what also happens is when I deflect, I'm going to turn it this way so that you can see. If I deflect the arrow rest to the right, making it shoot left, the sight moves left. So if you're sighting your bow in and it hits left, you have to move the sight left to correct it, right? But if you notice, this sight being extended, if I torque the bow, the arrow rest goes to the right, the sight moves to the left. So if the sight were sticking out farther from the bow, it would go more left with the same amount of deflection. If the sight is close to the bow, it'll go less left with deflection. So there's a sweet spot in here somewhere that when I torque the rest to the right, that makes a left miss, the deflection of the sight left corrects for it if I have it in just the right spot. So what we'll do is we'll set up the line vertical. I'll have a light torque one way and then have a light torque the other way. And when I say light torque, you only want to use maybe just a little bit more than what you accidentally would do. Because if you go whole hog on the torque, you'll kind of defeat the test. It'll be way out of range. So you only want to be just a little bit. Let me show you what a little bit looks like. So we have this set up here and it's dead center. A little bit would be just a little this way and just a little bit that way, just a tiny amount. Because if you go crazy, the test will be way out of range and it just won't work for you. So just a little bit of torque, just relax your hand and let it sag, and then add a little thumb and let it go this way, just to make sure that you are applying a little bit of torque. And your arrows will hit either to the left or to the right of the line. The easiest way to do this is to just arbitrarily move the sight out or in and then repeat the test and see if your misses get closer to the line. Now, the rule of thumb is, as many people as I've done this with, this is such an easy technique to do. I do it in my seminars, in workshops, and I can have 30 people torque tune their bow all at the same time, and it's just done, right? And that's if you're moving the sight in and out. But a rule of thumb is the closer the arrow rest is to the bow, or the support of the arrow rest blade is to the pivot point, the farther away your sight will have to be in order to correct for mild torque. If your arrow rest is set back, like the Jesse style rest with the arrow rest set backwards behind the bar, your sight will be closer to the bow when it finally negates the proper torque. So you can move the arrow rest in and out, or you can move the sight in and out. I recommend doing the sight in and out because it's super quick and easy to do it that way, and you don't have to fiddle with the tune of your bow by sliding your arrow rest in and out. And if you have a Hoyt bow with the bridge, there's not very much tunable space to move the rest. It's either behind the bridge or it's in front of the bridge. So there's not much tunable space. So the only reason that you would adjust the arrow rest in and out is if you have your field of view of your scope. Let's say that you're shooting feet of field or world archery field. When you're shooting world archery field, without giving away any deep, dark black magic trade secrets, you have to match your scope and its viewpoint to the target in order to range your targets for the unknown shooting distance. So you really can't move your scope in and out because you've got the proper fit dialed with the target. So you would move the arrow rest in and out instead so your scope can stay in the same place. So in the rare instance that you might be shooting world archery field and you're setting up your bow for the unknown distance portion, you're going to want to move your arrow rest in and out so your scope can stay right where you set it. But if you're doing any other archery, a mild adjustment in and out on the sight bar isn't going to hurt you at all. So I recommend just moving the sight bar in and out, but you can move the rest in and out if you're particular about your field of view with your scope. So let's go outside. I'm going to set up the target, and we're just going to do a quick and dirty test, and I'm going to show you how this works real time. First, I'm going to get my sight on 20 yards, Here's a little extra tip. I just got back from Break the Barriers in California. And here's something you can do. When you use Archer's Mark, it will spit out all of your distances and your numbers. And what I do is I print these on vinyl, like sticky back vinyl. You can buy it at Amazon.com. And you can print your tapes and your numbers and just stick them in your bow. So it's super handy to just look at your yardage and figure out what you need and then set your sight. So just a quick little tip there for that. Super cool. Give it a try. So here we are. I'm at 20 yards away from the target. You don't have to do it much farther than 20 yards because this isn't a super precise thing. You're essentially just adding some forgiveness. So we're going to use light torque, and I'm going to shoot a left torque, right torque, left torque, right torque. I'm shoot them, a couple times just to make sure that my test is good. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and move my sight because, actually, I'm going to leave it here because I may end up needing to adjust this. I haven't torque tuned this bow yet, so you get to watch. So I'm going to get started. Ignore the background noise. It's busy here at Last Chance. They're loading trucks with bow presses and ready blades to go around the world. So we got a little background noise today. So I'm on 20 yards. Okay, here we go. I've added a little bit of right-handed torque with my thumb. And that kind of hit the line. Let's see. Maybe I ended up with this bow in the right spot accidentally. If I did, I'm going to move it just to show you what the effect is. So then I'm going to relax. So take a close look at the arrow rest, and I'm going to add the torque so you can see. Here we go, right here. So you see that little bit of a change there? That's how much torque I'm putting in it. I'm going to do that again. Because I didn't show you what the right torque looked like. So I'm going to pull it back as regular, and then I'm going to add the right torque with my thumb so you can kind of see what that looks like. So this is regular, and then that is right-handed torque. Okay, that moved it. I added a little extra to it. So now I'm going to add a little left-handed torque. There we go. So let's go down and take a look and we'll see what we got. Okay, so here we are. These are the first two arrows that I shot with only minimal torque. And this is actually pretty good, right? They're right on top of each other. But as I was demonstrating torque, I added a little thumb and I got this, and then I added a little forefinger and I got that one. So you see what the separation is on the line. This would be representative of my miss at 20 yards if I were to accidentally add a little torque. So now I'm going to move my sight out a notch and do the same test, and let's see if it corrects it. All right, so I'm going to slide my sight out one notch. There we go, kind of clicks into place there. I'm going to tighten that back down. Then I'm just going to redo the test, and I'm going to overdo the torque just a tiny bit so we can see the differences. So first I'm going to torque it. I'm going to make it go to the right. I've already added the torque. And that looks like it hit the line, or is at least on the edge of it. And then I'm going to add the same amount of left-handed torque. There we go. Let's go down there and check those out. Can't believe it's 9 o'clock and the grass is still just completely wet. So it appears that my bow is sighted in right about here. I really didn't check my left and right before we began this, but it seems like this is the center of the 2 arrows just off the line. And that did move them in, you know, quite a bit from where they were before, because you see how far away that one was, right? So that moved it in quite a bit. So often when you slide your sight in, depending on the bar, your left and right may change, but what you're looking at is the difference in between the arrows, not really whether they hit the line or not. The line is really just an aiming guide, and you'll make sure that your aim stays on the line, and it's really easy to keep that vertical if you start at the top of the line and let your sight sink, just a little vertical motion. It makes it easier to keep the line left and right. So I'm going to move my sight out 1 more notch and see if we can bring this a little closer together. All right, so I'm going to move this out 1 more notch. Click it. There we go. So there's my original setting there, so you can see how far out I've moved it. Now, one thing that you need to know is that I have this bow all sighted in because I shot it like this at Break the Barriers. When you move your sight in and out, that'll also change the spacing of your sight marks and change where they are on the bar. But it's worth having to recheck and redial your marks in order to get this right, because it'll save you some points in the long run. And if you use an app like Archer's Mark or something, you just go in, change your 20-yard location, change your 60-yard location, and all your marks are correct again. So use a good sight marking app like Archer's Mark to set your sight marks so you don't have to worry about this. And UPS is here and another car. It's busy over here. And people going back and forth everywhere. I'm gonna wait. There's Leon, the Grand Master, is pulling in. I'm gonna wait so he doesn't get shot. So first I'm gonna add a little bit of right-handed torque. Okay. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of lefty torque.
Can you turn it, show the torque real good?
All right, so that's straight, and then that's torqued. So from here, it looks like that did it. Let's walk down there and take a look. I think I've found the right spot.
How do you know whether to move the sight in or to move it out?
Well, when I'm moving the sight, whether if I move it in or out, again, the rule of thumb is the closer the rest is to the bow, the farther away the sight needs to be. So my arrow rest is like right over the pivot point, so I went ahead and just started moving it out. Right. If you're shooting an arrow rest that's offset back, like a little short overdraw, you'll probably move it in because the sight will end up closer to the bow. Mine's about this far away now. If my rest was behind the bridge at 6 millimeters, it'd probably be this close to the front of the bow. So here you have it. All I got to do is sight in my left and right now, but you see with a significant amount of torque, a little bit more than what I would do on an accidentally, kind of shooting way. I just added a little extra, but even though I was intentionally adding torque, both arrows are right there with each other. So I've made my bow more forgiving if my hand gets, my grip gets weak, or if it gets too hard, or if I lay a little extra into it or something for whatever reason, my left and rights are gonna stay true. So this is called torque tuning, or I like to call it torque canceling, because you're not really tuning anything. You're essentially setting the sight's location so that its deflection when you twist the bow offsets the miss that it creates, so the sight creates forgiveness. So take your bow out, do it at 20 yards. Don't torque it too much, just torque it a little. Use a vertical line and get more accuracy in your left and rights at all distances. So there you have it. That is how you do torque tuning. As I said, it's pretty straightforward and easy, especially if you're moving the sight in and out. I didn't actually show you how to move the rest in and out because it's not really necessary for most people to need to do that. But essentially, in review, this is what we're doing is when you torque the bow, it offsets the arrow rest left or right, creating a left-right miss. By having your sight extended into the right location, it will compensate for the left and right miss by making sure that it's the correct distance from the bow, and it will thereby increase your overall consistency. This isn't a tuning technique that makes the arrow fly better or more precise. It's a tuning technique to make the arrow hit in the middle even if you make a small mistake. That's what forgiveness really is. The bow supplies the consistency, and the torque tune technique provides a level of forgiveness. And I have several tuning techniques that we can go through that will create forgiveness. And we'll be going through those in next thing of weeks down the road. So like and subscribe. ArcheryLearningCenter.com, Georgeryals on YouTube, Last Chance Archery on YouTube. Don't miss any of these updates because I'm doing a whole lot more stuff this time than we've done in the past. So you're going to get some really cool stuff, and I look forward to seeing you next week.